Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you at the start of another week. Monday morning, snow is falling outside, freezing cold. Hope whatever you've got planned for the next few days is going to be mainly indoors, if you're in England anyway, because it looks freezing for the next few days. And the mood isn't that much better at Arsenal, probably pretty frosty at London Colney this morning after that disappointing defeat at Villa on Saturday, and a disappointing week for Arsenal last week. Just 1 point from a possible 9, 2 successive defeats in the Premier League. Certainly the momentum that had been built up in 2021 so far has come to a bit of a shuddering halt in the past week. They were very unlucky at Wolves on Tuesday night, decisions very much not going their way, and although again decisions were certainly the talking point after the game, or one of the talking points after the game at Aston Villa at the weekend, I don't think they can quite say they were as unlucky in that one, although Mikel Arteta certainly thought Arsenal deserved to win 10. They completely dominated the game and that they should have won it. Didn't go down too well, that comment, I have to say, by some of the fans, and certainly some of the reaction on social media. I don't agree with him in terms of they completely dominated the game, deserved to win. I think they got pretty much what they deserved because they were pretty sloppy. They certainly dominated possession, but in terms of dominated the game, I'm not quite so sure about that. Villa looked very threatening on the counter-attack, had Matt Ryan not made a few very, very good saves, and Arsenal could have lost that game by a lot more than 1-0. Yes, they dominated large chunks of the possession. I think they had 70% in the second half, but only 3 shots on target. And if you only get testing the goalkeeper 3 times in a match, you're not likely to win many football games. So I'm sure Mikel, when he probably went back and watched the video after and watched the game again, maybe thinks, I went a little bit strong in that post-match interview. Obviously, he was unhappy about the decisions. There was a couple, wasn't there? Saka possibly, he's certainly brought down by Konza got a yellow card, possibly could have been a red. Have to admit, I can understand why it wasn't given as red, just given because of the sheer distance he was between a goal. It was certainly a clear goal scoring opportunity, so by the letter of the law he should have been sent off, but I think we tend to see when they're that far away it doesn't happen. Not that helps in terms of the frustration levels. I think certainly the one in the second half, the penalty on Lacazette when Martinez tugged him down, for me that was an absolute nailed on penalty. When you look at it in the replays, it's clear that Martinez hauls him over. I can kind of understand again the referee not giving that because he might not have had the best view of it, but when it was checked by VAR, I think it only takes one replay to look at that and you can see that should be a penalty kick. So I don't know why that wasn't given, and Mikel not too happy, obviously saying afterwards, I'll keep that between me and them, when he was asked what the conversation he had with the referee was and the officials after the full-time whistle on the pitch, and then when asked about the decisions, again I prefer to stay mute on that. So Mikel choosing not to publicly have a go at the referee, but I think just judging by those responses you can see how angry he was, and it's just an opportunity missed for Arsenal. They're now 10th in the Premier League after this weekend. They sit 9 points off Liverpool in 4th and 8 points off West Ham in 6th, so you think how costly those two defeats have been in the last few days. Arsenal take 6 points from 6 from them. They're suddenly only 3 points off the top 4, only 3 points behind the champions Liverpool, having played the same amount of games I think it would be. So that shows exactly how costly those couple of defeats have been now for Arsenal. Real disappointment after what was such a good start to the year and real momentum. As I said, the Wolves game was a little bit unlucky, but you felt that Villa game was so important. They needed to bounce back. They needed to respond. They needed to channel their anger, really, that they had from that Wolves defeat and bounce back and perform at Villa Park, but they just didn't. It was almost a bit of a throwback to the performances towards the end of 2020 for Arsenal. Lots of the ball, but not really doing anything with it. And that will be a little bit of a worry for Mikel Arteta because, like I said, the Wolves game, you can say they were unlucky and they played fantastic football in that first half. So although they lost, you came away from it feeling pretty positive still, but not the case in terms of Aston Villa now. And a little bit disappointing. And he's got a week now at London Colney and he's going to need to get the players back on it again ahead of what's going to be a very big game next weekend against Leeds. As I said, they're now 9 points off the top 4, 8 points off the top 6. So it's a big blow in terms of the hopes of Arsenal qualifying for Europe next season. Certainly not terminal yet, but they need to get back on it very, very quickly. And when you've got games against Leeds, Man City and Leicester coming up in the next couple of weeks, it's not going to be easy to pick up many points from those. When asked how big of a setback it was in terms of European qualification, Mikel said it's a big blow because when you consider the performances we've put in both games, we got 0 points out of that. We just give the opponent to the game. We need to come back. We've done it this season and we have to do it again. We have a week now to prepare for the next game against Leeds and then focus on that. Keep maintaining all the right things we're doing and the way the team is evolving. We need to stop certain things that are costing us games. Absolutely, individual errors cost Arsenal at the weekend. You can't start like they did at Villa Park, give away a goal like that, literally gift Villa a goal and expect to get too much from the game, especially against a very decent Aston Villa side who don't concede many goals this season. You just can't afford to fall behind like that to a goal as sloppy as that was. Mistake by Cedric, gifting the opportunity Traore, and then a little bit of luck for Villa in the finish, Watkins deflecting in off holding, but long way back for Arsenal after that. You did think, well, at least they've got a long time to get the goal back, but it didn't happen. And yeah, I think Mikel's certainly right. You can't afford to keep giving goals away. Now, Arsenal have been much better than that. Certainly in their upturn form since Boxing Day when they started keeping clean sheets. The mistakes were limited, really were. But they came back in that one, and they sort of came back against Leeds as well with a red card, certainly for Bernd Leno in terms of his individual error, getting himself sent off, and that's ultimately cost Arsenal the points, and did for Luiz's one as well, although I think he was unlucky to get a red card. It was his error coming out of defence, leaving the gap, and so it's individual errors that Arsenal are making and they're getting punished for them, and they need to cut that out fairly quickly. Little bit of a worry again on Thomas Partey. It's beginning to be a bit of concern. He's just not completing many games of football at the moment in the Premier League. He's back from injuries. He's shaken off that thigh injury, but he's still not making it. He limped off against Southampton recently and limped off again against Villa at the weekend. Whether it's the demands of the Premier League, the pace of the Premier League, or something that he's struggling with, because when he arrived at Arsenal, he had no real injury issues at all. He's had an excellent injury record over in Spain, but he certainly seems to be struggling at the moment to be able to see out games. Like I said, he limped off against Villa. Mikel's saying after the game he had a muscular injury, so he had to take him off. He could not carry on playing. I don't know what it is. We'll see the extent of the injury. He wasn't feeling well enough to continue, so we had to take him off. And that's very similar to what he had to say after the Southampton game when Thomas Partey also limped off in that 3-1 win at St Mary's not so long ago. And like I said, it's a little bit of a concern because he's such a key player, such an important player for Arsenal. You want him to be seeing out games in that midfield, and the fact that he keeps failing to finish Premier League games. He failed to do it against Aston Villa in the home game as well. Obviously failed against Tottenham when he only made it just before half time in that game, albeit that was slightly different because it was a thigh injury, and what I understand, this is one of those thigh injuries again. So but they need to really sort of try and work out what's happening with Thomas Partey there, because you can't afford to losing him on the pitch. You need to see him out there for 90 minutes because he's that integral to Arsenal, really. So that will be a worry. From what I understand, that Thomas Partey is feeling pretty good about the injury. He doesn't think it's anything serious, and it will be back very, very soon. Quite similar to against Southampton when he came back straight away and was training after a few days. They're still waiting for the final assessment from the medical team. I believe that will be told to Thomas Partey today. But the player himself is feeling pretty good and doesn't think he'll be out for too long at all. And has certainly got eyes potentially on being available for the game against Leeds at weekend. So that is a bonus, but we have to wait and see what Arsenal's medical team decide after completing their assessment. And we'll probably learn more about that today at London Colney. It's first week for a while. I think now Arsenal haven't got a game, so it might come at a good time for Mikel now just to settle everyone down, have a whole week with the squad at London Colney before that game against Leeds at the weekend. And if you're going to have a rest for a week, you want it before Leeds, because that's going to be such a draining game because of the way Leeds play and their style, their non-stop pressing. You want to have the energy levels right up to the maximum. So it's a good time for Arsenal to have a whole week off ahead of that game, which is now going to be a very, very important game because the two matches they've got after that, Manchester City and Leicester. And you don't fancy Arsenal picking up too many points against that. I mean, no one's getting any points off Man City at the moment. Fantastic again for them against Liverpool yesterday. Looking nailed on for the title. I think it's 14 wins in a row now. Not conceding any goals. I mean, they are doing what Liverpool did last season now, and they're shaking off that dodgy start, and they're certainly looking like the Premier League winners for this time around. So it's going to be very difficult for Arsenal in that one. So they want to make sure they get themselves back up and running against Leeds and get 3 points on the board against Bielsa's team. 0-0 at Ellen Road earlier in the season. And Mikel, I'm sure, will be really working hard with them at London Colney this week to nail down a plan to drill into them exactly what they're going to have to face against Bielsa's side and try and find a way of winning. I always find against Leeds, if you stay in the game long enough, they're going to start to tire a little bit, and chances are going to come. I think at Ellen Road, had Nicolas Pepe not got sent off, I thought Arsenal were well set to go on and win that game, because they'd seen out the first sort of 60 minutes and then could have gone on and hit them towards the end. They nearly did it with 10 men when Saka had a chance to win it, even after Pepe got sent off. So I think that's key for Arsenal, is just not get blown away early on by Leeds, not concede a silly goal or something like that, stay in the game. And I think as a game wears on, you can go on then and try and pick Leeds off, because defensively they're not the greatest. Mikel was asked, no midweek game, is that going to give you more time to prepare against Leeds? A bonus, is it? And he said, yes, it is. But today I saw the players, the way they were going, the way they were chasing, the way they were putting the effort in. It wasn't anything about physical. It was down to some things that as a team we have to be better at. Tactically, we were really good. They executed the plan. It was just about the execution in the final box. So Mikel pointing to the final third there as the issue against Villa, and that's something that Arsenal are going to have to improve against Leeds. And he's right, because Arsenal did get themselves into some good positions against Aston Villa, and the fact they only had 3 shots on target, having enjoyed so much territory and get themselves into good positions, especially in the fullback area, not making the most of it was a disappointment. And I think that's something they'll want to improve on for the weekend. I think Mikel's going to certainly have to face a big decision with Willian coming out, and Willian came on against Aston Villa. Gabriel Martinelli didn't, and Willian offered absolutely nothing when he came on again. There's a real decision looming in terms of what to do with Willian, because I can understand Mikel wants to play him, he wants to try and get him into form, he wants that transfer to be a success, but we're in February now and it's looking more and more like a failure by the week, and at some point you've got to cut your losses really and think, what is the point of bringing this guy on? And I thought he did all right when he came on against Man United at the start of the week, but against Villa he just looked lethargic. He nearly gave a goal away at the other end with a ball back pass that got picked off. Unfortunately, Villa didn't take advantage of it. And I think when you're chasing the game and you need to inject some real life into it, why do you leave Martinelli on the bench? Surely you go with him over Willian at the moment, because Willian's just not looking like he's going to do anything. And it's a difficult one, like I said, because they want that transfer to be a success. They've invested big money to bring Willian in on big wages for the next few years, but it's not working. It's clearly not working. It just doesn't seem to be fitting. He doesn't seem to fit into this team, into this club, and they're going to have to make a decision sooner rather than later on Willian, because it's not helping anyone, I think, this whole situation. The fan, he's already absolutely lost a fan. I think Willian is very, very lucky there's no fans in the stadium, because I think they would have turned on him long before now and made it clear with their feelings of his performances. So it's a difficult one for Mikel, it's a difficult one for Edu and for the club, but at some point you've got to cut your losses. So I think if Willian doesn't improve quickly in the next sort of month or so, then he's going to be really sailing in the last chance saloon. And if Mikel continues to keep picking him, then he's only going to be hurting himself, because especially if you're not giving Martinelli opportunities, because I think when you're chasing a game at the moment and you'll want someone to make a difference coming off the bench, you've got Martinelli and Willian. For me, there's only one of those players you should be sending on, and it certainly shouldn't be Willian. So some big calls for Mikel to make in the next couple of weeks. Just a couple of quick ones before I go. William Saliba, just wanted to single out him for some praise, doing very, very well at Nice. Got player of the month for Nice already there. They won 3-0 at the weekend, played very well again. By all accounts, he's given a couple of interviews recently. He was talking to L'Equipe about Arsenal and his struggles. He said when he came back last summer, he played 2 friendlies. He wasn't ready. He hadn't played for 6 months. I had no preparation to pick up the rhythm, and you need to play matches. The coach told me I wasn't ready. I thought that's normal. There were just 2 matches and I hadn't played for 6 months. After that, I waited for my chance. I waited for me to play more to get a rhythm, but that's football. It's like that. It's behind me now, and I took it as experience. At a big club with good players and a good coach, you learn a lot. Because at training there is very big intensity. You see how the players do things. There are great players who have won titles and been at the World Cup, so you have to be inspired by them. You see a bit at the highest level is like, even though I hadn't played, and it would be better if I had played, but I've still learned a lot. So interesting comments there from Saliba about his time at Arsenal. It's great to see him doing so well. I know Arsenal will be following him very, very closely. Ben Napper, the loan manager, will be in contact with him regularly. And he'll be watching all the games. He'll be going out to France to watch the games as well. So, Arsenal will be well aware of how Saliba is doing out there in Nice. And we all want to see him back playing next summer and playing well. So hopefully this loan is going to work out well. And then we can really have a good look at Saliba in the summer when he comes back for Arsenal. Just lastly, before I go, Benfica coming up on the horizon next Thursday week. I think we're going to find out very, very soon in terms of where that game is going to be played. At the moment, obviously, it's scheduled for one game in Lisbon next Thursday, then the return match at the Emirates. Doesn't look like that's going to be happening, though, because of the COVID situation. Portugal is on the red list in terms of travel, and there's no exemption. So if Arsenal went out there next Thursday, they would have to quarantine for 10 days upon arrival back in the UK. Obviously, that is not going to happen because Arsenal have got fixtures they need to fulfil in the Premier League when they get back. Talks are ongoing with UEFA about the situation. The plan has to be submitted to UEFA by today. That plan has to be submitted by the home side, which is Benfica, who've obviously been talking to Arsenal. It's looking like both legs are going to be played on neutral venues. I'm sure we'll find out very, very soon exactly what's going to happen. We've seen with Liverpool in the Champions League, their game against Leipzig that was due to be played in Germany has now been switched to Budapest, and I imagine we're going to see something pretty similar with Arsenal and Benfica, and it's going to end up being 2 games on 2 neutral venues, which would be a shame because 2 very classic clubs, very famous grounds, and it would be nice to see both playing at home, but I think we all know at the moment that the situation isn't what it is, and you've got to do what you can just to get these football games completed. So we should know more by that very, very soon this week. Like I said, the plan needs to be submitted to UEFA by today. That will be done, and then we'll hear very, very soon. Technically, look, there's Benfica, because Arsenal could go to them on their rules to Portugal. So Benfica could say, look, we could play the game, we play it here, stuff Arsenal and what they've got to do when they go back. But that's just not going to happen. It's not in the fairness of the game, obviously, and the games need to be played. So UEFA would be able to step in that case. But Arsenal and Benfica have been having conversations about it all. And like I said, I'm expecting very, very soon we'll find the answer exactly where those 2 matches are going to be played. But as it stands, it's looking like it's not going to be in Lisbon. It's not going to be at the Emirates. It'll be 2 neutral venues, but we'll find out more this week. Thanks for watching today's video, everyone. Enjoy your rest of your day out there. Very, very cold, so wrap up if you're going out, and I'll speak to you soon.